On the very morning we were scheduled to fly out for our destination wedding, my fiancée finally rushed into the airport, fresh from her office. But literally 1 second before boarding, her phone buzzed with an urgent message from her executive assistant. "I'm so sorry, honey," she said, looking frantic. "There's a massive project at the company that needs my final sign-off right now." She squeezed my hand. "You go ahead to the resort, okay? I'll handle this in a few days and fly out to meet you immediately." Although I was disappointed, work was important, so I told her I understood. But the moment she left, I tore up my plane ticket. I decided to go back and see exactly which blind, reckless company would dare bypass me, the current president, to negotiate a massive project with a silent shareholder like my wife in the wee hours of the morning, especially since I'd fully acquired her company just that dawn. I followed her all the way to the venue, the very hotel I had gifted her when we first started dating, a property worth over $100 million. The massive digital welcome sign at the entrance nearly blinded me. "Congratulations on the wedding of Miss Audrey Quinn and Mr. Liam Banks." Next to it stood a meticulously retouched wedding photo. Audrey was in a bridal gown, smiling radiantly, her arms wrapped around a man who wasn't me, the man she had promised to elope with today. It was Liam Banks, her male executive assistant, the one who had just messaged her about a super project. The realization hit me like a physical blow. No wonder when we discussed marriage, she claimed she was tired of corporate insincerity and didn't want a pompous ceremony, insisting on a quiet travel wedding with just the two of us. It turned out the photo shoots, the ceremony, and the marriage license were all reserved for someone else. Before entering the hotel, I made a quick phone call. I walked into the banquet hall and took a seat with the best vantage point. I watched as the MC announced the bride's entrance. Audrey's father held her hand, walking her down the red carpet from the entrance to where I was standing. Liam walked from the other end, solemnly extending his hand toward her. Just as her father was about to hand Audrey over, and their fingers were about to touch, I didn't hesitate. I drove my boot hard into Audrey's calf, sending her crashing down in a humiliating tangle of white silk. Her veil tore off, and her bouquet scattered across the floor. She dragged Liam down with her as she fell. Sprawled at my feet, Audrey opened her mouth to scream curses, but the moment she looked up and locked eyes with me, the blood froze in her veins. Liam kept yelling for Audrey to get up, but she didn't dare look at him. I looked down at Audrey, who was panicked and struggling to rise, and asked, "Why the deep bow? Are you asking for a red envelope to pay for the wedding?" Hearing my voice, Liam turned his gaze to me in disbelief, his face draining of color. His instinct was to crawl behind Audrey to hide, but Audrey's father grabbed him. The old man looked sharp and aggressive as he pointed a shaking finger at me, deliberately raising his voice so the entire hall could hear. "You homewrecker. You're like a ghost that won't leave. Didn't I chase you off outside the hotel? How did you get in?" As his words echoed, everyone's eyes locked on me. No wonder he looks so shifty. Turns out he's the other man. Audrey is such a responsible girl, and she's devoted to Liam. Any ideas this guy has are a waste of time. Audrey and Liam have known each other since they were in diapers. Middle school sweethearts. As soon as Audrey made it big, she brought Liam to the city to share the wealth, even made him a boss. Who does this guy think he is? Try and come between them. Childhood sweethearts. Together since middle school. Perfect. I nodded along as I listened. Audrey had pursued me frantically starting in college. It wasn't until our senior year that I was moved by her persistence and agreed to be with her. Until today, the day of our supposed elopement. I had been the other man for 3 years without knowing it. If she and Liam were so in love, why pursue me? The answer was obvious. It was because I was the son of the country's wealthiest tycoon and a legendary pop diva. It was for the money I had, more than she could spend in several lifetimes. Just wonderful. I kicked Audrey over again. "You think I'm a homewrecker here?" Audrey's face was full of guilt, shaking her head at me desperately. She tried to explain, but Liam suddenly screamed and threw himself over her. "Audrey, are you okay?" He hugged her tight, winking at her frantically. Audrey stared at him for a moment, then slowly composed herself, a calculating glint appearing in her eyes. Seeing Audrey attacked, the guests were filled with righteous indignation. "Why are you hitting people, you homewrecker?" A man next to me rolled up his sleeves, raising his arm as if to punch me in the face. "Wait!" Audrey dropped her timid act. "Julian Sterling, you've been harassing me for years. I've rejected you clearly and told you my heart belongs to another. Today is my big day with Liam. I will not tolerate anyone ruining the wedding I meticulously prepared for him. Leave now, or don't blame me for calling security to throw you out." I sneered, meeting her gaze. "Audrey Quinn, Don't forget where you got this hotel. Well, why do you have to kick me out? Or do you think that if I leave, your dirty little secrets will stay hidden? Liam stepped forward, holding Audrey's hand. Julian, I know you've always liked Audrey, and seeing us get married hurts. But she has always loved me. You can't force love. We're married now. I hope you stop disturbing her. I wasn't surprised by their affair. Discovering it was exactly why I decided to reclaim the company I had built for her with my money, my people, and my effort. A company I helped grow into a titan. I had kept this move secret from her until now. Originally, I feared being too heartless and wanted to give her one last chance. Now I saw I had overthought it. Just as I was about to throw the acquisition documents in Audrey's face, her father rolled his eyes and deliberately raised his pitch. Oh, I know. You're that male assistant Audrey mentioned, the one the company with inappropriate designs on her. I wanted to laugh. I tapped Audrey's foot with the toe of my shoe. Compare our statuses. Me, your assistant? How does your dad not know what his own son-in-law does for a living? Before I could finish, a man cracking sunflower seeds nearby spat shells right into my face. The whole room erupted in laughter. You're just a male mistress trying to snag a sugar mommy, and you didn't even check your target's net worth? Who is Audrey? She's a CEO worth millions, with companies piled high and countless luxury cars and villas. See this hotel? This massive luxury wedding venue belongs to our Audrey. And Liam? He helps Audrey manage all these companies and has negotiated countless super projects, boosting the company's value by tens of millions, pushing it into the global top 100. Liam helped her manage the company? Negotiated projects? It was me who poured millions of my pocket money into her investments. It was me who used my parents' connections to find her network. It was me who lowered myself to attend endless drinking parties to close deals for her. It was me who pulled all-nighters guiding her, and often, because of her extreme lack of vision and experience, I had to step in and do the work myself. Without my help, Audrey, a poor student from a rural village who couldn't even afford tuition, would have needed generations of descendants working themselves to death to achieve what she has today. Someone, annoyed by my arrogance, advised Audrey, if you ask me, you're too lenient with your staff. A secretary shouldn't have the guts to crash your wedding. If I were you, I'd fire him on the spot. Teach him his place. The banquet hall filled with voices of agreement. Audrey looked at me, acting as if she were truly scolding a subordinate. After causing a scene like this, I can't keep you as my secretary. But considering you've worked for the company for years, I'll transfer you to a branch office. I won't completely destroy your livelihood. If you don't appreciate this kindness, don't blame me for firing you. Her performance won a round of applause. Audrey truly is a big boss. She has a heart as big as the ocean, giving a guy like this a chance. I didn't appreciate it. I laughed coldly. Fire me? Why don't you try firing me? I'd love to see how you manage that. Immediately, someone sneered at me. True, why would a guy like him fear being fired? If he's fired, he could just go out and sell himself. How much does a secretary make anyway? The implication hung heavy in the air. A shirtless, greasy man looked me over with a lecherous gaze, practically drooling. Nice body, little brother. Are you up for anything? How much for a night? Uncle can't pay as much as those female bosses, but for the sake of being Manager Reynolds' relative, give me a discount. I glared at Audrey, my expression dark and terrifying. Audrey Quinn, are you sure you want to hide our relationship to the bitter end? You're going to stand there and watch them humiliate me. Audrey paused for a moment, but ultimately, she turned her face away. Liam is my husband. I have a clear conscience toward him, Audrey stated flatly. As long as you leave now, we can all be at peace. Liam put on a smug, villainous expression. Julian, I know you're unwilling to accept that you've ruined your reputation and gained nothing. Normally, I think someone as generous as Audrey wouldn't mind being extorted for some money by you. But you shouldn't have caused trouble on our wedding day. Even though you framed Audrey, she didn't fire you. Isn't she benevolent enough? Does your conscience not hurt? As he spoke, Liam shed tears of distress for Audrey. Audrey hurriedly pulled out a tissue to wipe his tears. Watching their performance made my blood boil. I lifted my foot and kicked Liam in the lower back. Liam shrieked and threw himself into Audrey's arms. Julian Sterling, are you crazy? Seeing Liam attacked, Audrey's eyes bulged with rage, and she violently slapped me across the face. I stumbled onto a dining table, getting covered in soup and grease. Worse, because my summer clothes were thin, I was scalded, large red burns forming on my skin. Audrey ignored my injuries completely, protecting Liam in her arms while shouting at me. Apologize to Liam, or this isn't over. Liam's eyes were full of triumph. I fought back the searing pain and propped my shaky body up with my arms. On my exposed skin, The angry red burns looked like a gaping maw, silently mocking the so-called love of the past few years. The burning sensation intensified, but my voice grew colder. Audrey, you hid your relationship with Liam while dating me for 3 years. You married him on the day we were supposed to elope in the hotel I gave you. And now you want me to apologize to him? Is it because I gave you whatever you wanted all these years that you think you can walk all over me? Do you believe I can strip you of everything right now? Audrey was momentarily stunned by my intensity. Hearing my words, people at the tables began to whisper. This guy just said they dated for 3 years, and today was their wedding day too. And he claimed he gave her the hotel. Could it be true? Fake at a glance. Anyone can talk big. We watched Audrey grow up. We know her character. If the hotel is his, why didn't he say he opened her company too? Just then, a weak female voice spoke up. But I saw his suit brand online. It looks like a super expensive designer label. I've never even seen Liam wear something like that. Liam immediately glared at the girl, furious. It's your first time in the city. What do you know about quality? We're from the same village. And look at you, betraying your own. The girl shrank back, daring not to speak again. Audrey withdrew her gaze, satisfied. She grabbed Liam's hand and raised it high, showing off the dazzling matching rings on their ring fingers to the entire room. She looked down at me, as if I were a complete loser. Julian, you say today is our wedding day. Do you have proof? My parents, my family, none of them have ever met you. If I were really marrying you, wouldn't I bring you to meet my parents? Besides, did I get a license with you? Did I take wedding photos with you? Did I give you any wedding gifts? You need evidence to speak. I prepared all of these things for my Liam. Liam leaned on her shoulder, smiling arrogantly. Exactly, Julian. You can eat whatever you want, but you'd better watch what you say. Audrey's words solidified my guilt in their eyes because I couldn't refute them. It was true. I was stupid enough to ask for nothing when I agreed to marry her. At the time, I simply loved her and lacked nothing. I never thought that one day, this love would turn into a blade stabbing me in the heart. Everyone in the hotel was pointing at me. A homewrecker interfering in others' relationships. Let's see what you have to say now. We can't just let him go. We have to teach him a lesson. Immediately, someone grabbed my hair and dragged me hard to the floor. Liam's father winked at the shirtless, greasy man. The man understood immediately, bending over with a lewd grin to grab my abs. Little brother, being a homewrecker is immoral. Uncle is going to educate you properly today. I screamed, twisting my body desperately to escape his claws, but my limbs were pinned down. Terror washed over me. I shouted Audrey's name, hoping her conscience would kick in and she would stop them. Audrey's pupils contracted, and she was about to intervene, but a second later, Liam tugged on her arm. He ruined our wedding. I am upset. I want to give him a little lesson. Audrey hesitated, but just a small lesson. You know the folks from our village. They know their limits. Besides, we're watching right here. What could happen? Audrey fell silent. Liam embraced her, and she absently rubbed his back, watching as more men and women began to put their hands on me. Get off me. This is assault. You'll go to jail. But the next second, someone slapped me so hard I saw stars. What right does a cheap homewrecker like you have to accuse us? This isn't assault. This is doing God's work. Filthy insults drowned me out. Just when I fell into utter despair, a voice came from the door. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm late. When he saw my face, the voice turned to horror. Stop. What are you doing? The face of Manager Reynolds, the hotel manager, became clear in my vision, and a sliver of hope rose in my heart. Reynolds was an old subordinate of my father's and had watched me grow up. When my father gave me the hotel, he asked Reynolds to look after me. Back then, Reynolds had acted terrified and swore his loyalty. Seeing my wretched state now, Reynolds went pale, his voice trembling. What on earth is going on? Audrey's father spoke first. Manager, this homewrecker dared to cause a scene at CEO Quinn's wedding. The villagers are defending her honor and have taught him a lesson. CEO Quinn tacitly approved all of this. If you don't believe me, ask her. Audrey could only nod stiffly. Reynolds stood there, caught between a rock and a hard place, looking from me to Audrey. Suddenly, as if making a decision, he gritted his teeth and backed toward the door. He offended CEO Quinn and Mr. Banks. It is right to teach him a lesson. I have business to attend to. I'll be going. I was furious, my voice heavy with warning. Reynolds, people are assaulting me in your hotel and you don't stop it? Be careful, or my father will make sure you never work again. Hearing me mention my father, Reynolds' breathing hitched. But a moment later, he stiffened his neck and glared at me. Even a dragon can't crush a local snake. Besides, the hotel is in CEO Quinn's name now. I am her manager. You're just a homewrecker. What is there to fear about a homewrecker's dad? He leaned close to Audrey. He relies on to offend you like this. You should show him. You have a net worth of hundreds of millions. Without him in the way, what can't you do? He made a cutting gesture with his hand. Audrey was shocked. No, that's not necessary. But I suddenly understood why Reynolds was doing this. I had been humiliated in his hotel. Whether it was a small grievance or a massive one, when my father found out, he would blame Reynolds for incompetence. It was better to silence me once and for all. Sure enough, after hearing Reynolds whisper a few words, Audrey's eyes changed. She looked at the people pinning me down and slowly nodded. Someone whistled cheerfully. The shirtless, greasy man grinned savagely and reached for me first. I watched in terror. Get off me. Audrey Quinn, you ungrateful wolf. I won't forgive you. About to die, and still so arrogant. The sound of fabric tearing filled the air. My clothes were ripped to shreds in the blink of an eye. The eyes around me grew even more crazed as they saw my bare skin. I screamed with all my strength. My father is Arthur Sterling, the richest man in the capital. My mother is Victoria Vance, the pop diva. If you dare touch me, you're all dead. I was forced to show my hand, but it sounded like the ravings of a dying man. As expected, I received only endless mockery. Countless rough hands wandered over my body. I closed my eyes weakly, my heart sinking to the abyss. The next second, the main doors were kicked open from the outside. Over 100 burly bodyguards flooded in, surrounding the scene. Audrey didn't even turn around, looking confident of victory. Liam lifted his chin at me. See that? Audrey's security team is here. You can't escape today, even if you had wings. Then, a scream of agony rang out. The greasy man riding on me had his arm pierced by a bullet. He collapsed, rolling on the ground and wailing. Young master! The bodyguards shouted in unison, their voices shaking the crystal chandeliers. The sudden turn of events plunged the entire hall into deathly silence. The man leading the charge was Kane, my father's most trusted confidant and a retired Special Forces operative. He lunged forward, kicking the man still hovering over me into the air. The force was so immense that the attacker flew 6 feet back, smashing into a champagne tower. Battered and half-naked, I was hoisted up by 2 bodyguards, and an expensive custom suit jacket was immediately draped over my shoulders. Audrey's face turned ashen. She glared at Kane, finally snapping out of her shock. Are you crazy? I am your boss. I called you here. You bunch of idiots. Don't you recognize who pays your salary? Reynolds chimed in. Security? Throw these troublemakers out. But the hotel security guards stood motionless, even taking 2 steps back to watch coldly. Reynolds' eyebrows shot up. Are you deaf? You dare treat the manager's words like wind. At that moment, the sound of disciplined footsteps echoed from outside. My father's private legal team and the company's top executives marched in. Audrey's rural relatives had never seen such a spectacle. They were too scared to breathe, the air seemingly solidified. Audrey suddenly had a bad premonition. The leader was the group vice president, Marcus Thorne. He walked up slowly, his gaze icy as he looked at Audrey. CEO Quinn. His mouth ticked up in irony. No, I should call you Miss Quinn now, because you are no longer the company president. What? Liam's face changed drastically. What nonsense are you spouting? Marcus Thorne waved his hand expressionlessly, and an assistant immediately handed over a document stamped with a bright red official seal. At 3:45 a.m., Chairman Sterling signed the Equity Recovery Agreement. All your shares in the company, your decision-making power, and even the accounts in your name have been frozen and transferred to young Master Sterling. In other words, you are now penniless. Dead silence filled the room. That's impossible. Audrey lunged forward, snatching the document, her hands trembling as she flipped through it, her lips quivering violently. Forged. This is absolutely forged. She screamed hysterically at me. Julian Sterling, you faked this. You bribed them to ruin me. Liam also rushed up like a madman, clawing at Marcus Thorne's suit. Fake. It has to be fake. My wife is a boss worth hundreds of millions. Her company can't be snatched away. Audrey's father shouted even louder. You're all in on it. This homewrecker knew he couldn't fool us alone, so he hired actors. Reynolds joined the chorus. Right. This guy is definitely a fraud. What kind of executive is this? I worked for CEO Quinn for years and never seen him. He must be hired by this guy. The villagers, previously arrogant, were now stunned. Audrey, this isn't real, is it? The woman who had spat sunflower seeds at me turned pale. You're a huge company. It's just gone. Someone doubted. Impossible, right? This guy is just a side piece. How could he swallow Audrey's company? Audrey immediately grabbed this lifeline, roaring at the crowd. Don't be fooled. He hired people to act. He just wants revenge. Marcus Thorne watched their dying struggle with cold eyes, then suddenly raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Two bodyguards immediately wheeled in a large LCD screen from the side door. On the screen, the hotel's property deed from 15 years ago was displayed clearly. Hotel owner, Julian Sterling. This hotel has always been an asset under young Master Sterling's name. And Miss Quinn, you have never held any equity. You were merely the woman the young master was keeping. Audrey looked as if she had been struck by lightning, collapsing to the floor. I slowly pushed aside the bodyguards and walked step by step toward Audrey. Looking down at her, I asked softly, CEO Quinn, who is firing whom now? The giant LCD screen instantly switched to a personal resume. Julian Sterling, only son of Beijing's richest man Arthur Sterling, honor graduate of the world's top arts academy, sole heir to the Sterling Group. Playing alongside, it was a video of an interview I gave an international financial summit and a photo of my mother, the pop diva Victoria Vance, smiling with her arm around me at the Grammy Awards. The crowd went into an uproar. The villagers who had just called me homewrecker, secretary, and prostitute turned ghastly pale, their legs giving out. Some simply slumped onto the floor. He really is the tycoon's son. It's over. What kind of big shot did we offend? Will we go to jail? Will we die? Liam was the first to react. He shoved Audrey away violently, pointing at her nose and screaming, Audrey lied to me. She didn't say she was keeping a pretty boy. She told me she was a self-made millionaire. I was just trying to marry rich. I was duped by her. Liam's father tore off his chest corsage and rushed up to grab Audrey by the collar. You animal. My son is 28 this year. He's followed you for years. You wasted his youth. How could you lie to him? Lie to our whole family? Reynolds' legs went soft, and he knelt directly in front of me, frantically shifting the blame. Young master, spare my life. It was Audrey who wanted to kill you and take your things for herself, to let Liam take your place. That's why she ordered me to do it. I followed your father for so many years, always loyal. I was confused for a moment and listened to Audrey's lies. Young master, please give me another chance. Please spare me. The aunt who had called me rat-faced rushed up and slapped Audrey hard. You beast! You were the one keeping a man, yet you told us young Master Sterling was the mistress. The greasy man who had sat on me was pinned to the ground by the crowd, his face green with terror. Young master, I was wrong. I was blind and deceived. Please be the bigger person and let me go. Audrey was trembling all over, finally realizing she was completely finished. She crawled to my feet on her knees, her hands hugging my legs tight. Her eyes were red, snot and tears smearing her face. Julian, I love you. I really love you. It was all Liam seducing me. He threatened me, said if I didn't marry him, he'd tell everyone in the village I was being kept by a sugar daddy. I just cared about my reputation. That's why I made a mistake. She wept bitterly. Julian, give me another chance, okay? I'll divorce him right now. I'll live a good life with you. I swear I'll only love you for the rest of my life. Please, let me go. I looked down at her disgusting face and slowly curled my lip into a cold sneer. Love. I kicked her over onto the floor. At death's door, and you finally learned how to love me? I, Julian Sterling, can have any woman I want. Do you think I need your scraps of affection? I turned and scanned the room, my tone icy. Everyone here today, anyone who laid a hand on me, anyone who cursed me, none of you will escape. Lawyers' letters, indictments, financial compensation claims. I will make you all pay the price you deserve. Liam screamed, grabbing his father and trying to run, but the bodyguards blocked them instantly. Audrey looked like death warmed over, closing her eyes in despair. The crowd wailed. I turned away from Audrey in a grand gesture, stepping over the broken champagne glasses and torn wedding decorations, and strode out. Behind me echoed the heart-wrenching cries of those people. I fulfilled my promise to leave Audrey with nothing, reclaiming everything I had ever given her. Half a month later, court was in session. I didn't even attend in person. My father's gold standard lawyer appeared on my behalf. In the solemn high court of the Capitol, everyone held their breath. The judge's steady voice echoed through the courtroom. The investigation finds that the defendant, Audrey Quinn, with the intent of illegal possession, fabricated a marital relationship with Julian Sterling to defraud vast sums of property, utilized her management position to embezzle assets from the Sterling Group, the amount being particularly huge, and at the crime scene, deliberately condoned others to inflict harm on Julian Sterling, the circumstances being heinous. She paused for a second, looking sharply at the defendant's dock. Therefore, Audrey Quinn is sentenced to 12 years in prison. Audrey collapsed into her chair, lifeless. Liam jerked his head to look at her, lips trembling, trying to speak, but only a desperate whimper escaped his throat. The judge continued the sentencing. Defendant Liam Banks, knowing Audrey Quinn had a fiancé, conspired with her to defraud property, sentenced to 7 years in prison. Liam's legs gave way, and he fell to his knees, crying hoarsely, "I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail." Audrey's father was sentenced to 5 years for instigating the assault. As for Reynolds for abuse of power, assisting Audrey Quinn in framing Julian Sterling, and attempted murder, sentenced to 10 years. Reynolds turned pale, his forehead knocking against the dock, completely defeated. And those villagers who got physical? None escaped. All were sentenced to between 3 and 8 years. 3 days later, I brought a designer back to the wedding hotel I had once given Audrey. Pushing open the doors, it was empty and cold, the bustle and liveliness of that day long gone. The newly appointed hotel manager stood respectfully by my side. I raised my hand and touched the wall, stained yellow by the champagne. "Tear it down." The new manager paused. "Excuse me." "The entire lobby. Rebuild it all." My hand glided over the wall. "From now on, this place isn't called the Audrey. Rename it the Phoenix. From this day forward, remodel this into a Phoenix Rising themed art gallery, specifically to remind those who try to cheat in love." The day before Audrey was to be transferred to prison, a guard handed her a check for $5 million. Audrey's eyes lit up, thinking it was a chance for a comeback sent by a rival of the Sterling family. But when she flipped it over, her face went deathly pale. It was a love letter she had once written to me. In the letter, she said she wanted to start a business and asked to borrow $5 million as startup capital. At the end of the letter, she swore an oath to me. "If I betray you, I will repay you $10 billion. For the rest of her life, she could never pay it back. Meanwhile, I had already boarded my private jet bound for France alone. Looking down through the porthole at the city that held too many memories, I gently rubbed the ring I had specially crafted for my marriage to Audrey, the one I had planned to put on her finger during our travel wedding. "Young master, shall I store that for you?" I smiled and tossed the ring out the window. "No need. Some feelings are just like this ring. They're already in the past." Breaking news. Under the leadership of President Julian Sterling, the Sterling Group's market value has broken the $100 billion mark. On the TV, the host's voice was passionate. But off-screen, in the prison exercise yard, a woman with disheveled hair suddenly fell to her knees and wept bitterly. Some people lost love, some lost their dignity, and I'm merely ensured they met the fate they deserved. Story complete.